Welcome to another video tutorial from Google Smarter Not Harder. This tutorial is number 22, Google Apps script to show hide rows using drop-down menu as a trigger. So in this slide, we can see the description of Google Apps scripts. When you use Google Apps scripts, you can create scripts for a variety of automatic functions that you want to run with specific triggers based on the specific conditions you create, allowing for versatility in how your users interact with their learning document or environment. So we're going to show you a quick Google Apps script. This is a Google Apps script to show and hide rows based on a drop-down menu. So here is, I'm going to show you in a second, a drop-down menu, and there is a condition over here that if the drop-down menu says show, then it will turn it to 1, and if it says hide, then it'll turn it to 0. Now that 1 and 0 value is embedded in this Google Apps script, which is literally a note that I put into the cell. And this script will run with an app called Google Apps script. And it's a function that I labeled show hide rows. And it needs the value of 1 to show rows and a value of 0 to hide rows. And we're going to explain how that works. But what you need to know is that when I show you the Google Apps scripts, after I put in the function, there is a time when you need to give access, give permission, right, for Google Apps scripts to be able to run in the background of your Google Sheet. Okay, so it does need Google Apps scripts is another app like all the other Google apps, but it needs permission from you to be able to run in the background. Okay, so we're going to show that as well. But here is the sheet where we have the drop-down. So this is the description of practice self-assessment, and there is a rating scale here that can be shown when it needs to be shown, and we would like to hide it when it doesn't, when we don't want it to be shown, so that way we can have more space on our screen. So what we've put in here is a drop-down menu of show the scale or hide the scale. Okay, so that drop-down menu is in essence going to be the trigger of showing and hiding. I just want to show that some of you may have noticed over here that I have a grouping. I've grouped these rows together, and as an administrator or the editor of the document, I can click this little button over here that I've created from that grouping. But the problem is when you lock the sheet, the user, right, the one that's in the learning environment, right, the candidate or the coach, when it's locked, they don't have access to these margins over here. So they can't click on this like you and I can as administrators or editors to the document. The same, I have another hidden group of columns over here that you can see. Now, my users cannot see that, nor can they click on this. And that's a good thing, because what I have over on these columns are important information to run my script, right? And that's what you saw earlier. So this is a hidden column S that shows to me, the creator, some notes that I need to remember that when I create this Google Apps script, I want to remind myself that it's going to be running in the background. So I give myself this little note that gives the descriptor of how rows 18 through 22, the total of 5 rows, will be hidden if S18 is 0, and those rows will show if S18 is a 1. So if I double click on this, here's the function of that. So quick little function here says if O17, which is this drop down, says hide DOP scale, right? Then give it a 0, and and then of course if it doesn't say that, then just give it a 1, right? And it's an easy if-then statement, right? If it says this, give it this, and or else give it that, right? If you understand functions. So I'll show you how that works really quick. So right now it's show, and when I click hide, it switches to 0. Now you're going to be like, well, why didn't the rows hide? Well, that's because I haven't set up my script yet, okay? But I am making sure that this little function is working. It's going from 1 to 0 based on my dropdown, okay? All right, so now here's my Google script, and I can copy this. Whoops, let's try that again. I'm going to take this and I got to make sure I copy all of it. There you go. Copy that from the note that I have here. Oh, I don't want to disappear. And then I can click off of that. All right, so that's still there. And then to write my script, I need to go to extensions up here. Again, everybody follow me all the way to the top of the screen. Extensions and apps script. So I click on that and my apps script comes up in the editor section. Okay, here's my editor section. And I already have a get URL script, so we're going to ignore that. But I've already, to save time, I've already created by putting a plus button and labeling it show hide rows. And then I go ahead and I paste in what I just copied from what I gave you in the cell, right? So this is the script, okay? It's going to take from the active sheet. It's going to look for sheet named DOP. It's going to look for cell 18, S18 right here, S18, and I labeled it this. I named it that, and of course it's a value. Okay, so it's going to look for cell S18. It's going to get that value, and now once it gets that value, it's going to either run one of two things. If the value is a 1, then it's going to show from row 18 down 5 rows, okay? But if the value is a 0, then it's going to hide from starting from row 18 and down 5 rows. That's what that 18.5 means, okay? So once I paste that in, I want to click save, and like I said before, you can click save, and then you're going to run it once, okay? You're going to click on run, and when you run it, it's then going to ask you for permission. You're going to click on your account, and then you're going to click allow, okay? And then that will allow for it to run in the background, okay? But I've already done that, so when I click run, it's going to run it, and it's showing that it's executing just fine, right? So you may say, well, I didn't see it run. Well, here we go. I'm going to click on hide now, and you're going to see that that's a 0. And now I'm going to come back over here and let's run it again. So I'm going to click run, and it's going to execute it. And I don't know if you saw it was fast, but now those rows are hidden. So now I'm going to click on again, and I'm going to say show. I'm going to go back here. I'm going to run it again, and it'll run. And now these rows are showing, okay? Well, you may say, well, I don't want to be doing that all the time. Well, that's why we create a trigger, which is what I'm going to show you now. So over here, you want to click on triggers, and you're going to set up a trigger. There are no triggers right now. So I'm going to click add trigger, and I'm going to make sure that the function that I want is selected. So show hide rows, that's my function. Head always stays the same. You're going to say from spreadsheet. You don't want time or calendar. You want from the actual spreadsheet. That's the source. And then you want it, the event, when it happens, you don't want it on open, you don't want it on edit, you want it on change. Anytime that the sheet itself changes, then you want to execute the trigger, okay? And then if it fails, if the trigger fails, when do you want to be notified? I say as less often as possible. Weekly sounds great. All right, again, you want to make sure you've got the right coding or the right function, and on change, okay, and click save. Once you have that done, you'll go ahead, and now there is a trigger. All right, so now that I have a trigger, I'm going to go ahead and hide this so none of my users know that this is running in the background. But now when they interact with this dropdown, it will trigger and happen for them. So I'm going to click hide and wait a second. And now it's hidden. Those rows are now hidden. I'm going to go back and do the drop down show and give it a second. And now they're showing. And that is how you do a show hide rows as an Apple script in your Google Sheet. We'll be adding this to our YouTube playlist, as well as all of these others that we have created. You can see down here is 22 that we just recorded, and that will be added to our YouTube playlist. Thank you for joining us.